Hi everyone, my name is Jonan, a program coordinator with Careers. In this video, I'll be talking about how to write an effective resume and cover letter, but I'll be doing this just a bit differently. I'll be using some help from Anne. Anne is also a program coordinator and brings over 15 years of experience in career development and employment services. Anne's put the material together, and I'll be the one presenting it to you. Let's get going. So let's start by breaking down what we'll be covering today. To start, we're going to go over exactly what a resume is. Afterwards, we'll look at what you should include in your resume to make sure it catches the employer's eye. Then we'll talk about the format of the resume and finish off with the cover letter, including what it is and how it should be written. Let's start with what a resume is. To do this, I'll have Anne give you a short description.
Your resume is a 1 to 2 page Word document that highlights your education, your work experience, whether it's paid or unpaid, your volunteer experience, your interests, any certifications that you might have. It's kind of the Coles Notes version of you.
When working on your resume, an important question to ask yourself is, what can I do to make my resume stand out to employers? Typically, when you apply, employers are going to go through dozens of applications. As such, they tend to spend no more than 10 to 30 seconds to see if the applicant is qualified. To make your resume stand out, we're going to provide a few tips and tricks. By the end, we hope to take your resume from a plain scoop of vanilla ice cream to a delicious chocolate sundae with all the toppings. First things first, make sure your resume is accurate and well organized. Check to make sure the formatting is the same throughout, and always spell check multiple times. It's fine to use spell check, but don't rely on it. Whenever possible, have a friend or family member take a second look. Make it look good. Feel free to add some minimal coloring, some light grays, navy blues, etc. Use a bit of underlining or highlighting too. Just don't go too overboard. Avoid using a template. There's a few reasons for this, but it mostly comes down to your resume looking too similar to others, important details being left out, and your formatting getting messed up when uploaded to company websites. Make sure your resume is targeted to a specific job and company. Yes, that means you should do a separate resume for every job you apply for. It might sound tedious, but it's worth the work, and gets easier the more you make. With that being said, when you're applying to a careers internship, your resume may be sent out to numerous companies. So in that case, you would make your resume less company-specific and a little more generic. At that time, reach out to us or your off-campus coordinator and we'll provide some help if needed. Your resume should be no more than 1 to 2 pages long. As to what you should include in those pages, we'll talk about that shortly. Finally, make sure your resume has an easy-to-read font. This includes using text sizes between 11 to 12, with headings no larger than 14. As for the fonts you should choose, try to stay away from fonts like Times New Roman that are too academic. Instead, we recommend using fonts like Calibri, Tahoma, or Verdana. Now, before you actually start writing your resume, here's a few tips from Anne on things you should do before you get going.
When you are applying for a job, it's a good idea to use a job posting as a guide. Read the job description. Does it give you a good understanding of the job that you're applying for? Also look at the company website. Find out a little bit about what they do, who their customers are. Look to see if they have goals, a mission statement. This might be something that you can use in your resume and your cover letter, and it also helps you prepare for the interview.
After this, you're ready to start writing, so let's focus on what the resume should look like. This one is a chronological resume, which highlights your skills, education, successes, etc., from most recent to furthest back. For those who don't have a lot of work or volunteer experience, you would use something called a functional resume. An example of both of these resumes, along with the cover letter, can be found either in our Google Classroom or in the description of the YouTube video. Begin by making sure you highlight who you are with your personal information. This includes a professional-looking email address. It's worth including this information on both of your resume pages. As you go through, it's a good idea to break up your resume with some headings for the following. The first heading you'll want to include is your career objective. This should be a targeted one-line statement that outlines who you are and why you're applying. Afterwards, provide a summary of your skills and abilities. Remember that employers won't spend much time going through your resume at first glance, so provide them as much information on your accomplishments as you can. Afterwards, highlight your educational achievements. Were you on honor roll? Did you take any courses related to the job you're applying for? Did you take any courses outside of school? Any of these help, but make sure to put the most recent accomplishments first, since this is a chronological resume. This won't apply to everyone, so it's optional to include it, but are there any awards you've earned, whether it's through school, work, volunteer, organized sports, etc. Employers love to see your achievements, as it demonstrates drive and commitment. After you've outlined your skills and accomplishments, employers will want to see how much work experience you've had, as this is a key indicator on whether or not you have enough experience for the job. In this section, you want to add your job title, the company you worked for, and the dates you were employed. Put present if you're still currently employed there. Also, highlight your duties, and be specific. Try to list 3 to 4 from your most recent job, and at least 2 from previous ones, and try to think about what ones would translate to the job you're applying for. Here's an example of what that could look like. After talking about your work history, it's a good idea to highlight your certifications. Did you take any safety courses in school? Things like HCS 3000, first aid certification, etc. Next, you can highlight volunteer experience you've done. Often employers will count this towards your work experience, so if you don't have a lot or no work experience, try to get as much volunteer experience as you can and highlight it. List this as the same way you would your paid work experience, starting with the most recent and going back. Finally, put in your references. If you don't have a lot of space left or are unsure who to include as your reference, feel free to put something like references available upon request, and the employer will either ask for these before or after your interview. It is important to know that you should always provide at least 3 professional references. An additional personal reference is good as well. Whomever you choose, make sure to include their name, job title, organization, and phone number. Remember that you need to ask if the person will be a reference for you first. It's a good idea to share the job description with them so they have a good understanding of the job you're applying for. Next, we're going to briefly talk about the cover letter. What is the cover letter? It's a one-page document that is sent along with your resume. This goes before the resume and is an opportunity for you to introduce yourself to an employer. This is how it should look. Make sure it follows the same style and formatting as your resume. Same as before, start with your name and contact information. Afterwards, put in the date when you are submitting, not when you've started it. Then, put in the information of the company contact or human resources department. If this is available, it should be listed within the job listing. The cover letter is like a formal letter introducing yourself to the hiring manager, so start by putting "Dear" or "to" followed by the name of the individual. If you can't find this information, feel free to put something like "Dear Hiring Manager." Next, make reference to the job posting and job number if it's available. This not only helps the employer know they're looking at the right application, but it shows them that you've made an application unique to the job and not just a generic one you copy and paste out to everyone. If you're applying for something like a careers internship, put something along the lines of regarding careers rep automotive service technician internship, as this will be sent out to multiple employers and has no specific job ID attached. Next is when you start writing the paragraphs. Your first one should highlight why you're applying. The second outlines why you're a good fit, your accomplishments, your skills, and the final one closes the letter and thanks the employer for their time and for the opportunity to apply and interview. This should be closed with how you can be best contacted for follow-up. And that's it. I hope this information helped you clear up some confusions or questions you might have when it comes to resume and cover letter writing. We understand that this can be a bit scary at first, so please know that if you have any questions, come to our student page on our website. You can either send us a live message or write to us and we'll get back to you ASAP. Thanks for watching, and best of luck out there.